Welcome back to the MacGuffin tapes. I'm joined here today by Ala. How are you doing?
Good. Ready to talk?
Ready to talk. Dario, unfortunately, hasn't respawned yet. He, got stuck playing a game and we have to go back for it. Um, on topic, we are here today to talk about Black Mirror, the latest season. And for me, it's one of the greatest show on Netflix. I think it's always something in there that you can take away from it. It always has some great ideas or concepts. Not all episodes are always great or on the same quality, but I think this season is particularly great.
I would say that it's definitely the best season in a while. Actually, I just saw the critical response, like a little table, that's from Rotten Tomatoes, and the rating of this season is 85%, and the previous ones were 78 and 66. So it actually compares to season 4, and this is season 7. So seems like it's been a while for Black Mirror.
It's been going for 11 years, I think, or it started in 2011. Well, 14 years then. And the last season, season 6, was in 2023. So it's been a while since the last season. So I think that benefited this series, or at least, maybe Charlie Broker. Do you say it like this?
Broker, I think.
Brooker, sorry. Brooker had some time to think about some ideas, flesh some ideas out, and maybe also he needed this time to reflect about some technical developments in the world because, well, I mean, at least these last 2 years or 3 years is where we've been talking about artificial intelligence, and maybe that's something that also inspired some of these episodes.
We've been talking about artificial intelligence for a couple of years now, but Black Mirror has been talking about artificial intelligence for since the first season, actually. So how long has it been? 14 years, you said?
Yeah, 14, yeah. And we have 7 episodes which we want to go through.
We have 7? Isn't it 5?
Is it 5? Sorry, season 7.
Season 7, yeah.
Season 7 and 6 episodes.
Wait, is it 6?
Yeah, I just checked.
Yeah.
You can take my word for it. So what were your favorite episodes before we start?
I refused to define it before we started, and now I don't know. I mean, I would say definitely what I am sure of is that episode 2, Bête Noire, was my favorite episode. I was so mad at this episode. It just made me furious. I was screaming at my screen the whole time. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I enjoyed all the other ones, I would say in equal measure. Maybe with the exception of one, which I will not mention yet. But Dario also saw all of them but one with me. He insisted to watch USS Callister because it's space. And I kind of tried to postpone it as far as I could because it's space and because it's USS Callister, which I didn't care for the first episode of. And so, yeah, that was kind of interesting. But the USS Callister is the first. Actually, it's interesting because this season has 2 episodes which kind of connect at least partially to some other episodes. First is, of course, the USS Callister, which is a direct kind of sequel to the USS Callister episode from season 5, I think. Or what season was it? 4. It was season 4, number 1. So that, and then also the episode Plaything, which is I think episode 4, connects to the oh my God, what is the name? You have to help me. What?
Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch. Okay, so I was correct actually.
The episode that is sort of like a game. What not a game, this the story where you choose your own path.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
was actually pretty groundbreaking.
For me, I enjoyed all of them overall. Maybe my least favorite one would be Plaything. The rest I enjoyed very much. My favorites are the first one, Common People, Eulogy, and yeah, those two actually.
Mhm.
Yeah. And what I also wanted to mention is that for Plaything, they actually released a game, a mobile game. So Netflix is sort of expanding into this
Already
gaming.
scared.
Yeah. So I didn't try it out, but I just saw it on the platform, and I mean, yeah, in the episode, the game looked pretty cool. So I guess they spend quite a lot of time with
I
it,
mean, does
or
it
some
though?
time. Well, it has this retro feel, this sort of Game Boy graphics. What's called the 8-bit sort of games, and yeah, so interesting
Yeah, well,
that
that's
it's
the
like,
point. So for the time when the game is or the episode is taking place, that is of course really cool. But in 2025, less so. You would not catch me playing a Tamagotchi game over like 50 years of my life, like this guy's doing.
sometimes still there's some new games released with the old graphics. Also, I just read before starting the show that USS Callister, they initially intended to do like a series about it. Charlie Brooker and Toby Haynes, who directed the episode, and now they just turn it into a sort of movie. So it's the longest episode of the series with 90 minutes. Yeah, but let's just. Would you want to dive into the episodes?
Yeah, let's go. You can start with the first episode, which seems to be your favorite episode.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. The first episode is Common People, where we follow Rashida Jones and Chris O'Dowd as the main characters, as a couple, and I think that the start is great with them. We get to see their feet in bed, and they're just having fun in bed, and as we learn later, it's their anniversary. I really like this episode because it's not so much. Well, it's also about the technology, but it's very much about the human aspects of how. Okay, what this technology does to humans, and I don't know if that was that relevant in other seasons or episodes. I guess it was, but it's been a while since we've seen Black Mirror. But I thought in this one that really came through the human aspect.
Yeah, it's definitely true, but it's also the darkest episode of the season, I would say. Also, if you think about it, if you kind of try to look for parallels between the episodes, there is this specific technology that every episode uses, which is this little pod that people put on their temples. And this episode, I think, doesn't have that, right? Or am I wrong?
No, this one doesn't have it, but it's true that the button that appears in multiple episodes and also has appeared in other seasons. That's sort of kind of part of the lore of Black Mirror. I mean, I wouldn't say Black Mirror is a universe, but it has some connections between the episodes that started up. They started sort of building it, and I think it really helps viewers to relate, okay, this works like this, so they don't have to introduce a new technology every time. So it makes a lot of sense narratively.
I think it's also generally already much easier to put people into this kind of space because we already know all this stuff. This stuff already exists, or at least partially is already implemented or being implemented or being talked about. Of course, we're not really talking exactly about the things that are being used, for example, in episode 1, but we kind of know this whole thing with the subscription fees, with the subscription plans, and how suddenly your subscription plan is now inferior to a newer subscription plan. And so this is kind of, we are all familiar with that.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe just to sum up a bit what happens in this episode.
And also, I think what we forgot to say is definitely spoilers ahead.
Oh, yes, of course, as always. Yeah, so they are, Chris O'Dowd and Rashida Jones are a young couple, and I think the first day we see is them celebrating their anniversary, where they go to this, what is it, like a restaurant? No, it's, what are these called? Like a hotel with a restaurant, these sort of Americans, like, how would you call it?
I mean, I don't know, just a hotel. Like I don't
Yeah,
know.
hotel. Is it called Junipero or Juniper or something?
Possibly, because that is, of course, also another reference that exists in the Black Mirror universe that is being referenced actually in a lot of other episodes too.
Yes. So they go to this hotel and they have some very greasy burgers, I think. Yeah, which they went on their first date. And this hotel is also a bit like stuck in time, so it hasn't changed for years. So that's, I guess, why they like going there. And yeah, it's all is very lovely. They have a nice weekend or night, and yeah, I think on one of the following days, Rashida Jones has is it a stroke? I don't know, but anyway, she ends up in a coma, and that's when the technology comes in. Do you remember the name of the service? What it's called? Well, basically, the doctor Rivermind. The name is actually quite so generic, or yeah. So the doctor actually tells Chris O'Dowd, okay, there's no chance that Rashida Jones makes it, but then this lady comes in from Rivermind and tells him, okay, there's another solution. So we can remove the part of the brain of your wife that it's dead and replace it with synthetic matter or synthetic brain. And then the functionality of the brain is hosted on a server of Rivermind. And then she tells him, yeah, well, this doesn't cost anything. And the operation is much cheaper than you think. What does she say?
The operation was even free. The surgery was free.
Wasn't it 250 or something? I don't know why I have this number in my head.
No, I don't remember now anymore what the numbers were, but I think it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's super, super cheap, and then Chris O'Dowd does it. I mean, I think one of the reasons he does it as well is because this lady from Rivermind mentions that she also has this implant and she's able to just function normally. And the lady also mentions that, well, they're planning to expand to other areas as well. So the range of the service is just limited within the range of the satellites, and yeah, they're trying to expand. And yeah, the operation is successful, and Rashida Jones comes back, and they sort of resume their lives. So he is a factory worker, and she's a teacher for, I don't know, like what's it called, like primary school, I think. Where there's an instance where she sort of talks about bees with the children. she explains bees to them, and I think it's actually these robotic bees that appear in one of the episodes from a previous season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the conflict is then I think, Ala, you mentioned it a bit, that, well, I think it's when they want to go on their second anniversary since the operation. So as they go through the border of the state or something, Rashida Jones' character just falls into a coma again, or just like is paralyzed, and then Chris O'Dowd drives back, and then that's when she sort of miraculously comes back alive. And that's when they realize, okay, yeah, well, the limitations of the service.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think generally the thing is that they are kind of a middle class family, or they don't have that much money. And eventually it comes down to the theme of, can you afford to stay alive, basically? Because if not for the service, she would technically be dead, because she would be in a coma. She wouldn't have the capacity to come back and still be a functioning human. So, yeah, although this service kind of provided them the chance to, yeah, well, continue being together, for her to continue her life, still it kind of enslaved her in a way that she was tied to the service, she was tied to the subscription plans, and eventually the subscription fees grew and grew, and the limitations of their subscription plans grew too, and yeah, it was basically just about finding the money to be able to sustain this service and this lifestyle of theirs. And there is also kind of one storyline in which they're trying for a baby. And eventually this also becomes a limitation, because apparently if they want to have a baby, the brain in a pregnant woman's body changes, so they would have to again pay more. And so it's kind of just like this circle that just never ends, and everything is just growing, all the expenses are growing, and then eventually I think Mike is the character. He has to find ways to finance this, which then again also is another kind of level of the story, which was kind of interesting as well.
What you mentioned a bit, the dark aspect of this episode, and it's that from his colleagues, he learns about this streaming service where people do stupid things and get paid for doing them online, which is, I don't know,
not necessarily only stupid, but also kind of dangerous, self-harming, and really embarrassing, to say the least.
Yeah. I don't know if I can think of anything similar. Well, I mean, not in the sense of harming yourself, but I guess on Twitch or in YouTube, people just do random things to please their audience. But okay, but we forgot to mention that first they Chris O'Dowd tries picking up more shifts, and this is told through a sort of montage where we get to see their daily life, how every day Chris O'Dowd drinks his coffee and gets more tired, and their calendar gets busy, and this is leading them nowhere. So that's why at some point he decided to do this sort of streaming thing. And yeah, of course, it's self-harming. Well, he starts sort of very basic, where he just
starts small.
He starts small, and then as their need grows for higher subscriptions of Rimmermind, he starts doing more and more stupid things and self-harming even. On the other hand, on Rashida's side, on her character side, what's starting to get difficult is that she starts playing ads. So basically, yes, she just starts reciting ads from Rivermind, and that leads to problems in her job, because she basically tells one of the kids to join a church, And well, so that's also why they need the higher subscription models, because Rashida can, or they can afford that Rashida loses her job.
Well, so you said that this episode is kind of the most human, or shows the human aspect more so than only the technology. Is that the only thing that is your favorite thing about the episode?
Yeah, no, what I really like, it's their struggle. So it shows their struggle, that they're trying to stay above water. And I don't know, I find it a bit frustrating, or maybe how to put it. Yeah, a bit frustrating that they can't find any other way to get out of the cycle, but I guess that's the point. Yeah, I was a bit frustrated with Mike. So couldn't he think of any other thing to do besides harming himself to sort of get ahead? Yeah, but in sort of that way, it's realistic that some people are just struggling and try to get along, and it's never enough. Also, like I said, the technology is actually great if you think about it. So allowing people to live longer, not live longer, but instead of just being in a to live, yes. But the technology here, we see that the technology is not an issue, but how the company makes money out of it. So how the company, just basically abuses this system, and in the end, just
Yeah. Well, but basically this is kind of making us consider the ethics of such a situation, because it's not really that unrealistic that such things might happen in the future, because with the technology growing, how possible is it that such a service could exist? I feel like maybe at some point it's quite possible. And then the
also
question of the subscription models comes into play, because then again it's
also
kind of the question of money, who can afford what.
what this might be referencing from real life is sort of Elon Musk with his, what's his technology called? I forget. E-Link. He also like had some talks where he wanted to have this chip that he implants to people, and then I guess that's sort of, this episode is critiquing that a bit, as well as streaming services, that subscription model in general. And going back to what I really liked is, in the end, they decide, okay, we can't do this anymore. And I think it's really beautifully shown, sort of in the last scenes, but throughout the episode, that their house sort of starts getting more and more messy, and they have to sell more and more stuff. And I think one of the last things they sell is the crib that they had bought for their baby. And sort of really dark Black Mirror humor, that the people that buy the crib from them are just buying it for a punk video and just to burn it. So very, very dark humor. But what I thought was really beautiful is in the end that they said, okay, it's time to move on. And Rashida tells Mike that, well, he should just disconnect her. Or no, not disconnect her, but basically kill her. And I thought that moment when she tells him is very, very beautifully framed and shot, sort of in that light. So very sad ending, but sort of beautiful in a way as well.
I mean, and it was a good episode. I would say that probably, well, I mean, okay, how much positivity can you expect from a Black Mirror episode? I would say that this season is actually rather positive in comparison to other seasons, because usually they are pretty dark. And this season has, like, I would say most of the episodes, except for maybe Plaything. But it's kind of hard to see that, in Plaything you don't know what's going on afterwards, because it's kind of a weird episode. But Episode 1 is definitely, I would say, the darkest episode and the one that ends on a negative note in comparison to the other ones.
Yep.
But then again, I don't know why I didn't enjoy it as much in comparison to all the other ones. I can't really say. But
Yeah.
I thought that maybe it is this dark side of it, but I mean, isn't that what you want from Black Mirror? I don't know.
Usually the first seasons were had this dark humor and were very critical and dark. And I think as the show progressed, it started having some episodes that were a bit more on the positive side. But yeah, this one is more on the negative side.
I was kind of thinking about it, and if you connect it to the recession core that is going on at the moment, maybe that's actually exactly the reason why this season is rather positive, because people are not in the mood for more negativity right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is that, but yeah, this at least we are going a little bit into a little bit more of a kind of a positive vibe from here. And it's also interesting why they decided to start the season with this episode, if it is the darkest episode. They wanted to kind of start off like that, but then go on with a little bit more, I don't know,
Maybe tonally.
light-hearted. I mean, you can't really say any Black Mirror episode is light-hearted. But in the context of Black Mirror, if I say lighthearted, I still mean dark shit, but just not dark as some other shit.
So those things I wanted to mention, I think the casting was surprising to me at first, but as I kept watching, I understood why. So Chris O'Dowd is great at playing the part where he sort of starts self-harming him, and yeah, so he kind of plays that tragic part really well. And Rashida, on the other hand, she's great at switching between when she is reciting the ads and being just herself. So I think they're great in those roles. I think first, as I saw them as a couple, it was maybe a bit strange, but individually and then as a couple as well, more towards the end, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this makes sense. The other thing was the episode. One of the last images is them when Chris O'Dowd kills her by putting a pillow on her head. We again see the feet of them, I think, and yeah,
So it comes full
juxtaposed to the one of the first images. Yeah, and I think even before that, we see one image where we see their feet. I think they're in socks or they're just a bit colder. I think the lighting is also a bit colder, and as the episode moves on, so yeah, it comes full circle and it shows that progression of them. So I think from the cinematography, the production design as well, like I mentioned, how the house sort of gets more and more deteriorated is, yeah, they do a great job there. Okay, let's move into the second one, which you said was your favorite one.
Yes, Bed Noir. Well, actually, also something I wanted to say is why I went into watching this new season a little bit more skeptical is because Black Mirror started off as a British show, and then at some point it became kind of either half-half, I'm not really sure, but a lot of it became very American. And I would say that the episodes that are fully British are always the ones that I enjoy the most. And I would say this is why I also enjoyed Bête Noire more so than other episodes. And that's probably, I'm cutting some slack to Plaything as well. But Bête Noire follows a food scientist, I believe she is, for kind of a company that produces sweets. And I think her name is Maria. And then she just designed some chocolate candy, and then they are doing a focus group test. And then one person that takes part in this group test is Verity, who Maria knows from her school days and who was bullied in school. And then it turns out that she is going to apply for a job at this company. And then she just suddenly gets the job, although seemingly she doesn't really have the qualifications for it. So this is kind of the start. This is the premise of the story. And then it gets kind of progressively more paranoid from there. So we kind of find out that Maria was the one or one of the people who bullied Verity in school, and Verity was kind of a computer nerd. And as the story goes, how should I put it? There are a few situations in which it seemed like the reality changed to suit what Verity was saying or to contradict what Maria was saying. And so she gets really paranoid about that, and is questioning everything, questioning reality, questioning what she knows, what she thinks. There's this specific scene where she is talking about the name of a food chain, of kind of a fast food chain where her boyfriend used to work, and she was sure that it had one name. I think, let me see, was it Bernie's or Barney's? Now I don't remember. I think, let's say she says it was Barney's, but everybody else says it was Bernie's. And then she's like, I'm sure of it. He has this hat, and we see the hat. And I kind of, in the very beginning of the episode where he puts the hat and we kind of get the shot of the hat, I was like, this will come up. Why would they just give us a random shot of this hat? And then it comes up, and we literally had to go back to check what it said. Yeah, but so that was interesting. I enjoyed how it was playing with us just as much as it was playing with Maria's character, or Maria. And yeah, then basically the technology behind this episode is some kind of how do you actually, what do you call that? What was the, let me see quickly.
I think she mentioned that it's a quantum computer.
Right. So it's a quantum computer, and she uses kind of a remote, remote that she controls with her fingerprint, that then changes the reality for Verity. And yeah, I don't know. This episode was so much fun. It was so annoying. I was so mad. And I was so rooting for Maria. Although we do find out that she was bullying her, but she doesn't seem like an asshole. I don't know. She kind of, I mean, I don't know. Kids are assholes, so sometimes kids bully each other.
Yeah.
As long as it's I mean, I'm not for bullying. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought it was a really fun episode. I enjoyed it immensely. And the ending is just so funny. Although it's a little gruesome, but it's still funny.
What you mentioned about the feeling, I enjoyed that also very much. That at first, I think the first detail is the hat that you mentioned, and that's a bit more subtle. So if you didn't pay attention, you don't catch it. The next couple of examples are, I think, a bit more on the nose, if you will. So I think the second example is when she mentions to Verity that she shouldn't use or she should use a specific kind of fat for these cookies they're doing, because the person coming to test them is vegetarian. Yeah, and again, I think on the one hand, the script is very intelligent, that we are sort of on Maria's side and we're rooting for her. But two things on that I think one scene was very interesting between her and her boyfriend. I think those interactions were quite crucial for me because you can see, I mean, the boyfriend sounds quite reasonable, and in the sense that, okay, why just don't you just let it go with this girl from your school? Like, so you can also sort of see the other side that, okay, maybe Maria is getting a bit paranoid or she is getting crazy. So I think the boyfriend having that character really helps for us to sort of see the other side and also like maybe question what's going on. And then
So
the
he
other
is
thing,
basically gaslighting us into thinking that she's crazy.
yeah,
And her as well. Like, yeah, but also if you think about it, there was no chance to not pay attention to it because Verity was on a quest to make Maria go insane. And so she was not going to stop. And so, I mean, even though Maria is being paranoid, it is justified, and it's it's right that she was doing what she was doing, I would say.
after the second or third example, I started thinking, okay, Maria, you're being smart that you recognize the situation, but you have to be smarter than this person because it's sort of one of these situations where these workplace situations where I don't know if these delicate situations where someone says one thing and the other person says something else. So you have to be smarter than the other person. You just can't play along with them. So at some point,
I mean, Verity is a genius after all. So how can Maria be smarter than her? I doubt it. But also another thing is that while we're watching, at some point we find out that another friend from their school, from another classmate, committed suicide sometime before, and Maria kind of attributes it to possibly her having contact with Verity, and Verity kind of causing this, the death of this classmate. So the girl was on a quest. She was not gonna stop.
Towards the end of the episode, when she goes to Verity's house and actually tries to take the pendant from her, and actually just in the last few minutes of the episode where she sort of grabs the gun from the policeman and shoots her, and then changes how the remote works. So I think in those last few minutes, that's where we see her playing smart. That's sort of what I meant. But the ending is sort of where it all derails, and I think it's maybe where some people would say, okay, this is a bit too much, but fortunately that's where the episode ends. And
I thought it was great because, like,
yeah.
First of all, it shows how unoriginal she is, and by herself, kind of. She just did what. Well, at the same time, Verity also did that. She did a lot of things with this possibility, with this quantum computer of hers. But being the empress of the universe was one of those things. And I mean, who wouldn't do that? I don't know. I thought it was really fun.
That's a great moment because we get to see that actually, okay, maybe in school she was also seeking attention, or she's also very basic in that sense that she wants the attention and be adored.
Exactly.
I think two things that I also really liked is one, the moment where they're in the kitchen and Maria sort of, I think it's a pretty fair apology that she gives to Verity, but Verity won't have it. It's just, she's just full revenge mode.
Yeah.
But I think that was a nice moment to have. And I think that's also when we first get to see that actually she is changing reality somehow, because we get visual confirmation that the footage shown on camera is different than what we just saw seconds before. And I think just the two actresses just do a great job of think here I see it's Sienna Kelly who plays Maria and Rosie McEwen who plays Verity. So yeah, Verity is just very sort of a doll in a sense, or very robotical in a way, or just perfect in a sort of sense, and really annoying. And Maria, I think, yeah, the actress Sienna is just really funny. Her reactions, her face is hilarious. I thought, yeah, I was dying of laughter sometimes. She was great.
You know who Verity reminded me of? Do you remember the film The Faculty with oh my goodness, with Josh Hartnett and Elijah Wood, kind
I
of
haven't
the
seen it.
science fiction horror movie? Oh, there was this girl there. I'm sure people that know the movie, they will know who I'm talking about. It was this kind of, oh wait, let me see, what was her name? Um Maybe Mary Beth, can that be? But yeah, just this girl that comes to school as a new girl in school, and then yeah, all kinds of stuff is going on. But yeah, I just thought this girl gives off a similar vibe in which she's kind of this innocent girl, but you know there's something going on. There's something lurking there.
Maybe this episode ends on an extreme note, but again, I think the aspect of Maria just having this person from her school come back into her life, and her going down the rabbit hole of okay, finding out what was she doing up until this point. I think that's something that most of us can relate to. So again, yeah, the
Definitely.
technology is one aspect, but I think that aspect everyone can relate to that.
That's true, actually. So it's also kind of, a lot of it is human. It does have this kind of twist to it, of course, the technological twist, but it's more to serve the purpose of this kind of, yeah, the bullied becomes the bully, and what is going on, and why are things happening? Am I crazy? Yeah, that's true.
So, shall we move on to Hotel Reverie?
Go ahead. Hotel Reverie. What can you tell me about it? What was good about this episode?
I guess both of us are not very fond of this episode, or I think it was fine. Yeah, so the basic premise is that we have an old movie studio which has classics in their catalog, and they're trying to survive as a studio. It's a family business, so they hired this company, this tech company. I forget the name. Vision. Redreams. There you go.
Another very cool name in the universe.
And the studio Redream basically wants, or is able to, sort of modernize some classics with some cool tech. And I think, yeah, well, in this episode, the technology is a bit, how to put this? Yeah, it's not very believable, or it doesn't make much sense, like how this approach works, sort of. Just basically, they hire an actress who gets inserted into a virtual world, sort of like with an Oculus, sort of. Well, in a virtual dimension, which is the original movie, and then this actress gets to play out the movie.
One of the roles, yeah.
Yeah, one of the roles. But yeah, it doesn't make too much sense to me, and that maybe why wouldn't you just generate everything digitally? I don't know if the technology makes too much sense to me. But
yeah, I also just think that how the episode progresses doesn't really make much sense to me, because they invite her to play this role. I would expect that there is a little more preparation that would happen before they just insert her in there. It just doesn't make sense to me. I would think if that there is such a technology, if they are inviting a person to play out a role, they would at least do some kind of a trial round to see what's up, if the person is okay with it. She didn't even look at the documentation that they sent her, and they're like, okay, let's go. I don't know. It's just kind of too much all at once and just doesn't seem like, I don't know. Okay, realistic is maybe the wrong word to use here, but just doesn't seem logical to me how this process would go. They have a very limited window of time that they reserved at this spot where they are, and yet they just happen to spend an endless amount of hours there, which seemed to me like it's because eventually something goes wrong and the time that they planned would never be enough. So I don't know. It just seemed kind of not very logical to me. The story itself, I can't really say was very compelling to me personally. Um, I guess the whole kind of the story about AI and feelings and personality, um, that is an interesting aspect of it, but I feel like it doesn't really get explored too much. A lot of the story is very, maybe not repetitive, but I was really bored with this episode. I just thought, okay, this like, let's wrap up. I would once in a while just check, okay, how long is left? And that was the only episode where this happened in the season. So for me, this was probably my least favorite episode in the season. But also, um, where did I want to go? Oh, now I forgot. Okay, maybe I'll remember.
There's maybe too many parameters, like in how the technology works and how the process works. So maybe the episode's not that clear from a script perspective there. And also the moment that you mentioned that when she got the prep, she got sent a package, but didn't read the instructions. So I think in that moment, we get to see that she gets this package and the USB stick falls out of the envelope and lands on the floor, and it's zoomed in on that USB stick. So maybe what I would have done, I think it would have been a bit smarter if we don't zoom in on that USB sticks, but see that more from a general frame, like from just her full body, and just see the USB fall out in the distance, because then it's a bit more subtle. And then once Brandy, the actress, gets to the studio, we are also more in her shoes that, okay, how does this work? So we are also a bit more lost in how this works. So the explanations from Aquafina, who plays the producer of Redream, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the explanations would also make a bit more sense, or are needed then.
Yeah. Now, I forgot it again. I remembered it, and now I forgot it again. No way. I forget. There's something about Brandy, but I don't. There it is. I thought that they kind of tease that she might be unhappy with her professional and personal life, but I feel like we didn't see enough of it to be able to justify why she wants to stay in this AI space with an AI character because she is in love with her. I don't know. It's just not, for me, is not compelling. If you spend more time telling me about how she lives her life, just a minute longer, just one more scene to show that, maybe you wouldn't have to spend so much time in this AI space that is boring as hell. I don't know. I don't know. For me, that was not very interesting.
I can understand what you're saying about Brandy, that her motivations are a bit superficial or don't get really explored. I guess what doesn't really get explored is to why. So we get to understand that she's drawn to this actress, this classical actress, and she sort of has a connection, or she feels a connection with her, but it's yeah, we don't really get to know why. I think their
Yeah.
relationship then in the movie, when the technology starts malfunctioning and they spend time together, and we get to see that through a montage as well. I think that's really nice and it's well done. And I enjoyed that part. I enjoyed their relationship, how their relationship develops. But yeah, maybe the starting point isn't ideal.
There is also this one moment when they are together and Brandy questions Claire, I think is the name of the character, right? Because it's like a dream within a dream. Dorothy or Claire? Let's call her Dorothy. I don't remember the character's name.
It's
So
Dorothy, yes.
she kind of questions, do you love me because you were written to love the character in the film? Or to fall in love with this character. But then again, why do you love her? She's not even real. She's not a real person. She exists within the confines of this film. As far as I can tell, this film gives very little room to wiggle for this character. She is very basic female character in the 1940s movies that is just being rescued by some man. So I don't know if there is a lot of personality to love there. So it's kind of, again, another level, another question of why are you in love with her? If you feel comfortable questioning why she loves you, because does she love you because she was written that way? I don't know. Just yet another point to that, I think.
I think what Brandy is drawn to about Dorothy is not Dorothy the character, but the actress, because we
Yeah, but
learned that,
again, as you said, we don't know why. They didn't tell us why.
well, there's some images shown that about the actress's life, about the actress who played Dorothy, that she was sort of in love with a cast member from set, and that she was very sensitive or very funny. But yeah, again, it's maybe a bit too superficial to.
We know that because we
Yes.
see it, but Brandy does not. She didn't see that. She just saw a few YouTube videos, one of which was talking about her tragic death. Okay, is that enough of a reason to fall in love with her? I don't know. Her tragic story.
Yeah.
Actually, this part, I would say generally, I think Emma Corrin is the actress, right? Which we also know from Nosferatu, by the way. I really liked her here. She was really good, and I also liked the montage of her life when she steps out of this AI space and she kind of becomes more aware of her Dorothy life. I really liked that part. That was very nice. That was probably the best moment of the episode.
That's also a great part, that montage of her remembering her life as the actress, as well as the montage of them getting to know each other. And yeah, I agree. The casting is great. Emma Corrin is sort of perfect for this role. She has this she can play this very classical actress type. I think she was also in The Crown. I haven't seen The Crown, but I read she was in there.
Yeah, exactly. Actually,
I think she played Lady D.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, also if we are talking about the redeeming qualities of this episode, it's of course the visuals. I would say the way that they recreated this 40s space, the atmosphere of the film from the 1940s was really I mean, it's really beautiful and seems very authentic.
I mean, for me, especially, it didn't really caught my. I thought it was a bit empty. I think like Erin, her portrayal was that got me most into that sort of classical movie type of setting. Yeah, I wanted to say that this is maybe a very Hollywood story in a sense as well. Like these topics are very relevant to Hollywood, and One thing I was also a good joke was in the beginning where the producer mentioned the Ryans, the two Ryans. That was I think a good. I thought it
Actually,
was
that's
funny.
something I didn't like because I was like, this again just shows how big this show became and how kind of, I don't know, it's not as cozy and homey and this is Easter eggy anymore as it used to be in the very beginning. So it's kind of almost too big to enjoy when you casually drop Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling in your episodes. Like, come on.
Guess people who work in Hollywood would are going to love this episode, but
Mhm,
I guess for a more general audience, I don't know. Yeah, maybe not so much.
mhm. All right. Thank God we moved past. But next is Plaything. So Plaything is the episode that connects to Bandersnatch. Is that the name? Is Bandersnatch the name? Because I'm like,
Yes.
can it really be? Um, so it connects a little bit into this universe. It's not fully integrated into it, but we meet the character of my favorite, Will Poulter. Which actually, I must say, this was the first, Bandersnatch was the first um, film or whatever you want to call it, where I was like, okay, he is fine. He is okay, I can watch it. But yeah, this was the first one. And here I was even happy to see him because I was like, oh, we get to see a character that we already know in this universe. It was kind of cool. So he plays this genius game creator, I guess you could say, right? And the main character in the episode is mm, I guess a computer game reviewer that writes for a magazine, and he gets to play this game for a review that Will Poulter's character created. And the game is, well, because the episode is taking place, I guess, in the 1980s or something around that time, it's for our relations not a very interesting game, I guess, but it kind of is like a Tamagotchi type or The Sims, a very basic kind, where just some beings get created and you get to be their god, kind of, if you put it in a very basic way. And then one kind of acquaintance of this character of the reviewer character, who we kind of follow him in two different timelines. One is kind of flashbacky where he is in the 80s where he is young and he plays this game, and another one is in today's time or maybe near future where he gets caught on suspicion of murder, and he is played by Peter Capaldi, the one and only. And he kind of gets to play this game and he doesn't really understand the point of it. The character or the creatures in the game are trying to communicate to him, and he doesn't understand until the acquaintance of his brings him LSD. And this is what changes everything. Which I guess kind of makes sense. But so once he takes LSD, he starts understanding and is able to communicate to those creatures, the AI creatures in the game, and eventually he has to grow the kind of the infrastructure that the game is installed on or is being played with. I don't know. Dario would be able to explain it better here, but basically that's how I can do it. And yeah, eventually, I guess the goal of those creatures is to take over the world, which I guess they manage in the end. But this is kind of the the drawback of this episode because we get the build up, like the whole episode is the build up, and then we don't know what happens. because it ends exactly where the interesting stuff would start.
So yeah, we don't get to see the interesting part, which I think is the ending. And I think throughout the episode, I don't know why I thought that it was a bit predictable. So as I was watching along, I could see sort of the next step of what was going to happen. For example, that this supplier of his that brings him the LSD would start playing the game. And then, of course, the first thing some people like to do is just kill things. And that's when, yeah, sort of the character of Peter Capaldi kills this supplier. So yeah, I sort of could see that coming, and maybe also the what's it called? The interrogation in the present with Peter Capaldi. I don't know if that's that interesting. I think Peter Capaldi is interesting how he plays it or how this is written, that he's a murderer, but he's not insane, in the sense that he's very logical about how he explained what his actions and how the this game developed, or how his interaction with the Thronglets developed. Yeah, Will Poulter, or as you and Dario call him, Punchable Face.
No, you don't have to tell the world that.
No, but I think he's great in this episode. I think he does a great job with his voice. His voice is sort of a bit higher pitched than his normal voice, and I think he's really enjoyable in this episode.
It just reminds me of this meme that was following me around. Remember with the opening scene of Warfare? The one I tagged you on, where they dance to this yes, song. Because Will Poulter's also there.
Yes. Yeah, so I liked how they built the 80s timeline from a production standpoint, and the game, like I mentioned pre-show, that you can actually play the game on Netflix's app store. I haven't tried it out, but yeah. So that was interesting to see that they actually develop a game for this episode as well. Yeah, I don't know. This really didn't grip me, although, yeah, Peter Capaldi, Will Poulter, and the young actor are great, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that was probably the drawing factor of this episode is, first of all, nostalgia bait for the 80s, which is basically every show at this point. And Peter Capaldi, which of course you can just put Peter Capaldi in a room and he will talk and it will be entertaining. So I don't know. Overall, if you also think about it, the storyline of this episode is super simple. It's really simple. It's just being made more complex through this kind of time change, or like the timelines. But eventually, I don't know. It was not. It was, for me, it was entertaining to watch for sure. I didn't hate it. I would say probably from what I saw online, this was the episode that was apparently least interesting, or had the lowest rating. Let me quickly find out.
I think you were saying this is a nostalgia episode, and we can really see that in the scene where Peter Capaldi's character, the young version, starts buying more and more tech to improve the system, and you can see the different consoles he buys. So that's also like a nostalgia thing for people, for millennials who grew up with, I don't know what she shows, the PlayStation, the first PlayStation, and the newer PlayStation, and whatnot. So.
Okay, here we go. Actually, no, Hotel Reverie had the lowest, according to IMDb, 6.7, while Plaything has 7.1, followed only by Bête Noire with 7.2. So it was not as bad as I thought. As bad as I believed.
That sort of checks out. So let's move on to Eulogy. Eulogy is the next episode.
Let's go.
I mean, this is my favorite episode. I think this is probably the best episode of Black Mirror, period. And it's one of those things sometimes shows. This reminded me of, I don't know if you've seen The Last of Us.
I have, just not the latest season yet.
No, yeah, well, in the first season where we have this episode about, I forget the character's name, well, this couple.
Oh, Murray Bartlett, the love of my life. Yes.
Yeah, sort of in that sense that it's sort of a bit apart from that, but it's sort of perfect in a way. It's like, oh, thank God that you made this. Yeah, maybe do you want to quickly sum it up what it's about?
So, the technology behind the episode is, this is gonna be difficult. So it is some kind of a technology that creates a memorial out of photos, old photos of people, and the main character is Philip, who is played by Paul Giamatti, and he gets contacted because a person from his past died, and they want to create such a memorial. So this person is Carol, and throughout the story, we find out that he was actually in a relationship with her, and we find it very gradually. So at first, we kind of think, oh, maybe he doesn't really know her all that well, because he doesn't seem to have a lot of pictures of her. He kind of has to find some pictures, and he gets then immersed into the atmosphere of this picture, and can kind of recreate a few things on it, or it can jog his memory to kind of tell what the situation was, what the setting was, where the picture was taken. He doesn't have a lot of pictures of Carol. He just finds 2 or 3 in which you cannot see her face. And we actually never get to see her face, which I was kind of talking about it. Daria and I were talking about it the other day, of how realistic is it for you to not remember a face, especially of a person that was basically your lover for a few years. So it's not a nobody to you. But what we concluded eventually is that it's not that difficult to forget a face, especially, I guess it depends on the type of person you are, but not everybody has a good memory for faces. And I think what we forget is that we have the privilege of having pictures on our phones of literally everything that date back to at least 10 years. And considering that this was a different time, he didn't have any pictures with where her face would be intact, let's say. And it's been a while. It's been at least 30 years. Or I think around 35 to be exact already, or 33, I think. And it's probably not unheard of to forget somebody's face after 33 years of not seeing them. So yeah, that was kind of also interesting to think about.
I think it's possible after 30 something years to forget someone's face. I think it's also beautifully shown in this episode that so this technology, he again puts this sort of device on his temple, and that's where he sort of they go sort of in a virtual reality with this AI guide. And in there, the photos are recreated. I mean, Carol, who he had cut out the face of. So we her face is sort of blackened, or sometimes some of the other people in the frame, they are sort of blurred, or sometimes they're like shown in a pixelated form, which is reminded me a bit, or it's inspired by Cubism. So their shapes are very, yes, cubic, or like triangles, so basic forms, basic shapes. So I think that was interesting from a visual perspective, how they created this, recreated these photos, which at the start of the episode are very dark, or we are missing a lot of elements because, yeah, Paul Giamatti didn't remember much of it, and he starts remembering more and more. Yeah, it's also interesting how the guide is sort of very therapeutic in some way, or like a counselor, because she is not, she doesn't judge him, she's just trying to help him. And
well, I mean, she starts to judge him pretty fast, which is also an interesting aspect of the episode, I think.
yeah, and in which moment, which is
I can't quite remember exactly. I think it's the photo which they are at a Halloween party, and he kind of says something, and he generally talks about Carol in a way that we realize that they kind of the relationship probably ended in a resentful way. So they didn't really end the relationship very clean. And the guide, I think we never find out her name, or do we?
at the end.
I'm not sure,
No,
but let's call her
no.
the guide for
Yep.
now. So she then kind of gets defensive about Carol. So he starts saying, "Oh, she did this and that," and then she's kind of like, "Yeah, but what were you doing?" And this was kind of the moment where at first I thought, is that actually her? Is she Carol? But then I kind of thought, okay, well, he probably would know if he saw her again, he would know it's her. But then it kind of gets resolved in a way that we know why, and it kind of makes sense why she was defensive about Carol and why she was kind of questioning him. And in general, I think it was good that she was the type of character to question him, because we otherwise would only have his point of view, and we would not kind of be made to question what he is saying, which is then that kind of defeats the purpose of the episode.
The guy eventually starts to push back. I don't know if I would say she judges him, but yeah, we get to know that the guide is actually sort of a replica of Carol's daughter. So yeah, but for me still, it's from a certain point of view, from a certain perspective, that she questions him and asks about him. But I still think that it's very sort of in a way, she literally guides him along, or she is there to explore with him what happened. And yeah, I think more at the beginnings she is maybe this perspective is a bit more hidden, or she doesn't show it as much, and she tries to help him by playing some music, for example, which she tells him, yeah, this might help you remember, or even she points out some details that he might have missed. So again,
I think this was really cool how she kind of, as you said, she can play you music that can kind of set you back into this mood. I think it's really cool because I am the type of person who, I guess, is a nostalgic person, if you can say that. I like to do this too, and to kind of remember things from my life. And I think it kind of speaks to me that the way that the episode is structured, and the way that they are kind of going through the memory lane with those pictures and the music and the setting and the colors, then because there is a picture where the kind of the black and white picture, then she tries to make him remember what colors were around, what were you painting here, and that kind of also adds a little more depth to the just the dimension of, or the limited, yeah, I guess the limitations of a photo, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, I think it's that the guide is sort of, yeah, they're there to help him. I mean, it's actually so that they can produce this eulogy, but I think for me, it was always that she was like sort of his, um, what's the word? Psychotherapist, or their his psychologist in a way.
Yeah, but I mean, eventually they can not really use any of his photos and of his memories for the eulogy, right? That was the whole kind of point. So it was more indeed for him to go through a therapeutic experience, I guess.
Yes, and yeah, it's interesting. It's step by step. So at the beginning, he is very reluctant. He doesn't really want to get into it. He's hesitant about it. And then, yeah, at the beginning, he has trouble remembering elements. And as they move along, he starts remembering more. And I think one of the crucial scenes is where they sit at the restaurant, which is actually when their relationship ended. Paul Giamatti is great at playing those different parts. Like on the one hand, the very neurotic parts. On the one hand, the very sweet, sweet part, or very, how to put it? Yeah, open. I mean, he opens up at the end, but that scene at the restaurant is like, we get to see that he was in that moment, those many years ago, he was so blinded by his emotions that he wasn't able to see, or he forgot the letter that she had written him, and he didn't even bother to read that letter, which in hindsight, yeah, okay, this episode is also about what could have happened if. So in a sense, a bit of like La La Land, if you will, or past lives, which we have talked about on this podcast.
Well, also though, I guess let's kind of explore this. Does it also give a comment on the limitations of analog communication? Because a letter, how effective is that? I mean, it's not really that crazy to imagine that he didn't see the letter, and he kept it. He just hasn't really paid attention to it for 30 years. How crazy is that? He always had the answer to his questions right there, but as you said, because he was so emotional about it, he just never went back to re-examine it. And first of all, it's about the inefficiency or the inability to communicate face to face, because she was not able to tell him what she wanted to tell him while they were there. Maybe it was because he was kind of not really receptive, and she was not, I guess, maybe scared to tell him face to face. But then also, yeah, the letter, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
anything could happen to it, and if you, I don't know, like, were you really so trusting in this format of communication that you never went back to check, oh, have you actually read it? I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
To suspend your disbelief a little bit, that it's a bit hard to imagine that he took the letter, but he never went back to open it. I mean, I can see it. Yeah, I guess he was very emotional about this relationship, and especially about how it ended. It was he even says it was shaming for him, that scene at the restaurant, or humiliating, I think he says. So in a sense, yeah, I can agree that, yeah, maybe he didn't bother looking at it. And yeah, maybe it's a bit also about the technology, because on the other hand, the guide helps him, like I already said, the guide allows him to view the things from another perspective, which he didn't he hadn't considered. And I think most of the conflict here is about the timing, that just that Carol calls him at a wrong point in time when she was there with his colleague, or that they weren't able to say what they were feeling, in the sense that Carol was pregnant and she didn't know what to say about her pregnancy, and she didn't know what to say about him asking her to marry her. So yeah, the guide helps Paul's character to see that other side as well.
Yeah. No, this episode, I mean, if you think about it again, this is probably the most human season out of everything that Black Mirror ever did, but this episode probably in particular, just the folly of people.
Yeah. And it's something we probably all can relate to. We all had relationships that didn't work out, and we all have these moments where we go back and look at old pictures and wonder about, okay, what could have happened, or maybe even we don't look at things because we would just want to move on. And yeah, Paul Giamatti is great at playing, I guess, these also different stages of maybe first, denial at first, if you will put it this way, but he's reluctant at first to see this, and as he moves on, he gets more and more emotional and angry and relives those feelings. So I guess that's also very interesting. I think he remembers the feelings very well, but not like we said, the faces or the music or that sort of stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
I think two more things I wanted to mention. I also really like the use of silence, how they use silence in this episode. If I'm not mistaken, one of them is at this dinner scene we mentioned, that just we don't have music, or the way they use pause. So it's a great use of this dramatic effect as well. And then one of the last things is we get to relive that scene again where Carol plays him this song for the first time, because he finds actually the tape that she had recorded for him. And so I think that's where so that's a great narrative device, that we wonder, are we going to see her face in the end? And I think in that scene we get to see her face when she starts playing the song. I think it's on the cello, so we get to see her finally. Okay, this was her.
Okay, moving on.
I want to move on.
Before this episode, you could stay here.
Yeah. Yeah, but let's move into USS Callister, the longest episode, probably also the most expensive. It's 90-minute long, and it
has all the actors from Hollywood.
Who is really? Oh well, I guess
Kristen Milioti, of course.
Yeah.
Especially now after The Penguin. Then also Jesse Plemons. Although in this episode he doesn't appear as much as in the first USS Callister, because technically his character is supposed to be dead. But he still appears, which I must say, in this episode, Jimmy Simpson is my favorite actor. I love this actor in general, but I just love that he gets to kind of play such a dubious character also in this episode. I don't really remember the first USS Callister episode, to be fair. I don't really remember what he was there, whether he was already this kind of like questionable personality there. But also I love the twist that they make out of the Jesse Plemons character again in this episode. But if you want to recap the plot, go ahead.
Didn't bother to rewatch the original episode. I just watched the recap on Netflix, and maybe it would have been a good idea just because of some plot points, especially regarding Jesse Plemons' character, which I had forgotten and I think are relevant for this episode. But yeah, in this episode, we follow the crew of the USS Callister, who are now stuck in the game freely, and they're roaming around in this universe, and they have no player tags. So this is what gets some other human players upset, because they're getting killed by this bug, I guess. And the real
Actually, good point. They are a bug.
yeah. And in the real world, we follow Ned's character, Christian Miliotti's character, and James Walton, who is played by Jimmy Simpson, who I think is, he gets to flex his actor muscle in this episode, playing these two roles, which are a bit over the top, but work great for this episode. I remember that he was also in Westworld, which I had completely forgotten, but yeah, he was good in that as well. So yeah, the crew of USS Callister, they basically want to break free or get into another dimension where they just can remain safely, so that they are not hunted by other players anymore. And in the real world, Nanette is sort of uncovering the mysteries of the company and of Jesse Plemons' character. I think it's Bob or Robert. What's his name again? Let's say Robert Daly. And eventually, Nanette, the real one, gets into the game and meets up with her virtual copy, and that's when Jesse Walton is also in the game and sort of kills one of the crew. And Jesse Walton basically wants to, what was his purpose again? Well, he wants to kill the bug so that he just can keep,
because it's lower, it's kind of sinking the rating of the game, and he needs to get rid of them. But the thing is that Nanette's point is that they are real copies, so they were created out of the DNA of the actual colleagues and hers as well, and Walton's too, and so they are kind of real. So killing them would be like killing a real human being.
Yeah, and then they find out that Robert Daly is still alive in this sort of nucleus of the game, and he's sort of a god, and this Walton had created this copy of him so that they could sort of scale the game, and then they would be able to create more worlds or universes for the game. And Nanette goes to this nucleus to talk to him and try to convince him that he builds a separate dimension for the USS Callister crew. But this is again where Robert Daly's sort of real self gets revealed, that he is, basically a nerd, but he is sort of also looking for attention, and he wants to have someone there with him. So at some point, he basically, again, like similar to what happened in the original episode, he wants to just have Nanette remain there with him in that nucleus. And that's when Nanette fights back and eventually kills him with this sort of collector's blade. And Nanette, who in the meantime was run over by a car in the real world, is in a coma. So Nanette gets this get from Robert Daly in the virtual world, where she is able to both create a different dimension for the USS Callister crew, but also implant. So the virtual Nanette is able to implant herself into the real Nanette so that she can wake up out of the coma.
Okay, but so if I want to go back to the scene between Robert Daly in in the in the nucleus of the game, as you said, and how Nanette meets him, because I thought this was a really cool scene. And because we kind of remember Robert Daly's character from the first USS Callister is more of a jerk who is kind of this manipulative and abusive leader of the team that created his own universe where he can be the god, he can be the boss, because he cannot really achieve that in the real world, where he is more of a mild, kind of vulnerable character, let's say. And here we kind of see him again as this literally nice guy, right? But as we know about the nice guy trope, this just like goes full circle in this scene, and I love that because he is this kind of agreeable guy who seems very friendly, seems very nice. She is very skeptical about him because she has been in a situation where he was very abusive to her. So she kind of tries to maybe see him in a different way and see that, okay, maybe he is not that bad, but she is still very aware of what he did to her. And it's good that she does, because that ultimately saves her life, right? And I think that was really cool. The scene was really nice. And the nice guy, just the nice guy trope, right? That just showed his entitlement through this nice guy facade that he has, and seeing kind of how this manipulative and abusive character that we know from the first USS Callister appeared, how he developed from this nice guy, right, that we know in real life. Because I think that's something that the first episode doesn't really go into, and we just see kind of the juxtaposition of the character in real life, Robert Daly, and the character of the USS Callister captain, right? Which is then like, oh, how did that even happen? But I think that's exactly how it happened, and we see we get a glimpse into it, into how this how this character might have developed from such a nice person, right? And this kind of hidden entitlement that is already there, and is like, well, but look, I'm so nice. Why don't you just stay here? I will be nice to you. But then the next thing he does is already not very nice, because he is already using those powers that he has to make her stay or make her vulnerable and kind of manipulate her in a certain way.
Link between what happened or the two characters of Robert Daly, the two versions of Robert Daly in the first episode, and here we get to see the evolution. I think from a character point perspective, this scene is great. It was great. Maybe because it's just a limited amount of time. Maybe I would have liked to have it a bit longer, because I think the switch between the nice guy versus the manipulative guy maybe happens a bit sudden. For me, it worked.
I think it worked just fine, because I feel like that's exactly the type of, again, this is kind of going back to the adolescence theme of incels, right? That it's kind of lurking in there. It's this, it doesn't need that long and that much time to come out, because the ideology and kind of the philosophy of that is already there. It's maybe it's not visible on the outside because the person doesn't express it, but it is in there. And that's what I thought. It worked. I think it worked in the limited amount of time that it had.
Yeah, for me, what didn't work that great in this scene is how the information is introduced. And I think in particular in these last scenes, but also throughout. But here I'm talking about how sort of the nucleus works, and then how Robert Daly creates these two diskettes,
Hmm.
which are sort of reminiscent a bit of the Matrix, if you will, although one of the diskettes is green.
Yeah,
But
but then it becomes blue.
yeah,
That was kind of funny because when we were watching it, Dario was also like, "Oh, that's like the Matrix," and I'm like, "Yeah, but no, it's green." And then he just like flips them, and it becomes blue. That was really cool.
yeah, I think it's great that well, basically it's a character test like the Robert Daly mentions, but I mean we're introduced to new sort of plot points or new rules about the universe in a fashion that seems a bit arbitrary. So I think the writing could have been, I don't know, a bit more tight in that aspect. And yeah, the same thing with some other plot points, which are sort of just pop up, if you will, that are okay, that Walton is still alive in the game, and that okay, Robert Daly is alive in the game in this nucleus.
The funny thing is that when we were choosing the episode, so Hotel Reverie stayed last, right? Although I was interested to watch it, I didn't read any descriptions, just like I never read any descriptions. But because USS Callister is space and I have nothing to do with space, I'm not interested at all in any sci-fi and anything like that. So I was kind of very reluctant to watch it. Plus, it's a full movie. It's a 1.5 hour long episode. And Dario, again, because it's space, was very interested in it. And we started watching it, and then once we were done, the uh, the opinions were divided because he said he didn't like it as much as he thought he would, and I liked it more than I thought I would. So, which is kind of interesting considering the fact that I was the one who didn't want to watch it.
From the production standpoint, I mean, the effects look great to me. The universes, the costume. I think Kristen Milioti also is great. I mean, I think she's just great to watch. Huh? And what else did I want to say? Yeah, so I think, for example, there's also a cool reference, I think, to Star Wars, where there are these two players sort of in the beginning of the episode just hanging around a campfire, and it's one of them has this sort of saber, which is, yeah, it's close to a lightsaber in Star Wars. So I think it's great that they are sort of able to play around in this universes and do something of, I mean, with higher production costs, if you will. But maybe also what I didn't like too much about this episode is towards the end when we get to the climax. And I think maybe it's the editing about, okay, we're following the USS Callister around who is getting shot at by the other players. And then we have Nanette's character just trying to put the diskette in. I think the editing maybe is just a bit goes on too long, or the scenes are too long together with the music. It's maybe a bit, yeah, I've seen this before, or maybe it could have been tightened up just a little bit because, yeah, I think it's just goes on for just a
Yeah,
tad too
I
long.
think I also thought that when I was watching. That was kind of a little awkward there.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I really enjoyed this episode. It was like a fun ride and some interesting character moments as well. But yeah, I think it's not as exploratory or philosophical or reflective as maybe some of the other episodes.
I must say though, I thought that they will go with a more kind of horror-y type ending for it. Specifically what I'm talking about is the fact that they kind of stayed in her head, and I thought they will make a horror out of it, like in the sense that she will be horrified that this is the situation now. They will be too, and now they are as screwed as they were at the beginning of the episode. But they kind of made it work, so it's
Mm-hmm.
okay, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I would have been fine with both probably, but uh, I, as you already said, they wanted to make a whole show out of USS Callister. Maybe still they might continue with the storyline because as we still see, there's still some room for improvement of their living
Mm-hmm.
conditions.
was very wholesome, just them as a family sort of enjoying the TV show. Yeah, I was still wondering how are they going to move on, but at least for now they seem to be happy. So yeah, a very enjoyable episode overall. Yeah, closing thoughts on the season 7.
I think we already said our closing thoughts like 3 times this episode. A very human season. A very human season. With a dash of technology to accompany it, which sounds just like our life nowadays. But yeah, I mean, actually, one of the better seasons for of the past several seasons that happened. So apparently since season 4, definitely the first or the previous season was not all the rage. There were a few episodes that were all right. And the season 5 only had, I think, 3 episodes, which I don't even remember. I don't even remember what happened. And yeah, I mean, good season, I would say. I would say pretty good. Turned out all right.
For me as well, it's a great season. It's just 2 episodes, Hotel Reverie and the Plaything, who are maybe not on the same. No, what did we say? Yeah, those 2 are not on the same level, but all the rest are enjoyable. And I think it just benefited the show that Charlie Brooker took maybe a bit longer to develop this, because it's great. I think this shift to a more human-centered stories instead of technology. And overall, I think it's very varied. So we have critique about technology, but we have, I don't know, the standard sort of black comedy, which was so characteristic in the first seasons. And I also think we didn't get too many thoughts or ideas that were repeated, or some were, but all of the episode felt kind of fresh. Again, I think, yeah, great season. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so then that's it for the show.
It was longer than expected again.
It's a long season, yeah. But yeah, I hope that you'll join us for the next time. And until then, we'll remain forever yours, or whatever the line is.
Oh, yours truly.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.